Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Success with SASS show. We are so glad you can join us because this is the show about being successful with your business. SASS is about being successful, alive, sexy, smart, soulful, whatever you can do to make sure that your business is authentically you and you feel rejuvenated and joyful and you bring your gifts out there with a message that you feel sassy and classy with the work you're doing. You have a voice, your business is your gift, bring it out there and do it right so that you don't feel like your business sucks your life force. So this is about unlocking your superpower and your sass and class in your business. Today is going to be awesome. We have the branding expert, an amazing woman, Claudia Miro. She is rock. She's amazing because this woman has totally helped me. Even though I do marketing, even though I do sales, I feel that as business owners, we get stuck. We sometimes get in our own heads and we don't know which direction to go or how to, it seems like a bigger thing than it actually is. And I think we suffer from analysis paralysis sometimes when it comes to branding. I think Claudia might agree that sometimes clients suffer with that. So today, why I brought her on the show is she has this company called Shine Online. And really inspired brand. So what we're going to do today is talk to her. Claudia, let's break down the secrets of really standing out in branding. And I'd like to start with just, can you explain what branding is? Because I feel like it's kind of been generically talked about in so many different ways. Like, what is branding?
Yeah, that's kind of the question, and I get it all the time. I actually hate the word brand. I have it in my name, which is interesting. So the Inspired Brand came out of this whole process of trying to figure out what my brand was because I was so busy working with other clients on theirs. And so to really put it simply, I give people the metaphor, the analogy of a cattle brand. That's really where it came from. So, if you were a cattle rancher, you used to mark your cattle and it was a symbol of not only your ranch, but also everything that comes with that, your family, your lineage, your land, so it's like, it really starts to take on so yes, it's a symbol, like your logo is a symbol, but it's the feeling, it's everything behind that. It's what you offer as a business, the experience that you give people in working with you. That's essentially your brand. And as a personal brand, for example, I tell people, think about what people say about you when you're not there. Think about what people think about you when people say your name. That's essentially your brand. And so sometimes people get stuck because they make it really complicated. It is kind of an esoteric term. It's also evolving. We didn't know what branding was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but now it's starting, like the industry is starting to get more sophisticated. So anyway, I think in a nutshell, if you start thinking about it as that, yes, your logo is part of your brand, but it's so much more. It's how you work with clients. It's the experience you give your clients. It's how you're looked at in your marketplace, in your industry. That's all part of your brand. So
I love the analogy of thinking of it. I love what you said when you said that the idea of branding, I don't know why I haven't ever reflected that it came from the idea of a cattle brand, that it was exactly that. I mean, that's such a great point. It expressed your family heritage, what you stood for, the logo of your family. So back in those days, you could actually say, okay, this is the, whatever, the Williams family, and you knew that their ranch was over here and this is the kind of cattle they had, or wow. And I think that almost is what scares people, is to think about something, because I think we kind of suffer right now. I don't know that a lot of people want to think about legacy. I feel like we're kind of in a quickly turning marketplace. So I think people, and maybe we can answer this, and I know I'm going a little bit in a roundabout way of talking about branding, but how do you come together with something that is going to stand out, be authentic to who you are and the legacy and what you stand for, but at the same time be relevant and creative, right? Because I feel like that's that balancing act of branding, right? How do you stand out and do it authentically, but also how do you do it in a creative place?
Yeah, I mean, that word authentic, man, that is coming up a lot lately. It's personally, I think it's a lot of things right now. One thing is that we have a very, 10 years ago when I first started doing branding and web design, it was like the Wild West. Like everybody was just going for it. There was no, nobody knew what they were doing on Facebook. Facebook was not what it is now. So it was a little bit more organic and, you didn't have as much competition. Now, if you're in any industry, you go and you can compare yourself and get into analysis paralysis because you see, 500 people doing amazing stuff in your field. So I think one is to be authentic to you. That's a value to me. I don't want to do anything that's not fully me. A lot of people are fine doing business for the sake of business to make money. That's not why I do business. So it really does kind of depend on what are your values. If you're about profit first, then maybe it's not so much about the authenticity. But the problem is, or not the problem, the opportunity is that consumers are more savvy because the web has evolved so much and because we have access to so many, the values of the web are around transparency, authenticity. People can leave you reviews. So if you are saying that you're one thing and your business is showing up as another, then there's going to be an incongruency with how your brand is reflected in the marketplace versus what you say it is. So I think there's this really cool checks and balance system that's happening because of the technology that we have at our disposal, changing consumer trends, so much more savvy and sort of with it consumers that can smell BS a million miles away. And so I think there's this sort of perfect storm of why people are talking about authenticity now and the fact that it's so competitive. So if you're not being yourself, it's really hard to keep that up in the long haul. Somehow there's going to be a break or a crack in the facade. So, if you start off being authentic about who you really are and just really shine light on what you are and what you're being already, then it's a lot easier to come from that place than to pretend like you're so with it and you have this perfect brand that has been curated over time. And I think that was the old model. Like advertising agencies, you would spend a lot of money to put together this really perfect campaign and this image of yourself. And what we've seen is that's not really sustainable. It's definitely not sustainable in the pace of the businesses that we have now. You have to be nimble and stay on your toes to be competitive in this changing landscape, right? As you know. So yeah.
And I talk about this. I mean, authentic is really what I believe in. Can you maybe share an example of somebody? I mean, even if it's an example of how we work together, but how does somebody kind of do that work? Like, is there a question you like to do or something you like, you kind of do with your clients that maybe somebody goes, oh, I can do that right now. I can find that authentic piece that allows me to bring my brand more creatively alive online.
Yeah. I take clients through a discovery process, and I used to take it for granted because it's just sort of how I started doing my business a long time ago, really getting curious about who is the person behind the business, who are the people behind the business. I talk about, I do values exercises with people. So what is it that you stand for as a person? So what is your mission statement? What is your manifesto? What do you believe in? And then also, what is your business? How does that connect the dots? Why are you, so people want to hear when we talk about brand story, and we'll talk about that maybe at some point today, but when people start crafting their brand story, they get stuck because they haven't really connected the dots between who they are and where they've gotten to in their business and then what their business is. And so anyway, when you align all those things, it's a lot easier process. But so back to your question, yes, there's a discovery process. I ask people about, what do you want customers to say and feel about your business? Really putting that vision out there. And then it becomes easy to say, okay, well, if you want to be seen as this, if you want to be that, then what do you have to do? How does it have to feel when people go to your website? What do you want it to, we talked with you were like, I want it to be sassy and sexy and, ooze kind of like that current, but still classic feel. And I think you ended up doing that in spades. So yeah.
Oh, that came from you. But that's, the work we did was, okay, what is it? I really feel that, this idea of being sassy is about really standing up for the value system. And when I say success with SASS, it's not about, being anything other than what you are. You feel and you feel every part of your bone and your being that you have something to stand up for. And like when people are sassy, it's like, yeah, this is what I believe in, this is what I stand for. But I also believe that you can do that in a way that's classy. I don't think you have to bash other people. I think that connection is currency. So when you connect to yourself and you know what you stand for, then it's easy to connect with somebody else.
Yep. Yeah, and there's actually one other thing I thought of as I was planning this. So I'm actually going through a personal branding process now that I've been in this business for 9 years. I bootstrapped a lot of my own branding, which I tell people just do it. Start where you are and then figure it out as you go along. You know, not everybody has thousands of dollars to invest in branding right away. So just start and then you'll figure it out. Your clients will tell you what your brand is. Your experience and working with people will tell you what your brand is. But anyway, so now I'm actually refining that and trying to go back and kind of get a little more clear, especially after having been in the business building other people's brands for as long as I have, haven't really done my own work. So anyway, I'm working with a wonderful woman named Julianne Stiddick. I have to give her a shout out. She's amazing at what your personal brand is and styling that and really giving you sort of like these really beautiful details around how you can put your brand into everything. And so she did an exercise with me that I actually have done a version of with my own clients, which is to get feedback. I tell people, send out a questionnaire to the people who know and that you trust their opinion of you, whether it's friends. I send out to a combination of friends, clients, and just people that I know that are in the industry. And I ask them some key questions about getting to the heart of, you know, how do you see me? What do you see as my gifts? What do you see as, what is your experience of me? And the question, not only is it like a really beautiful process to hear people actually, you know, we're our own worst critics. So to hear good stuff is really nice. But to hear the constructive stuff is really good too. So like you can see, and it's more, you'll get more of the feeling. Like I got the word inspiring a lot, and that was amazing, right? Because I'm the inspired brand. So that's what I aspire to.
That's a great feedback for you to have.
Yeah. But there's in that, I think that's a really powerful process for people who are so stuck they can't see the forest for the trees and they're just not getting a sense of who they are to other people and to the outside world. So get outside of yourself, get some feedback, get people to tell you what they experience of you, and it might give you some adjectives and words to start playing with that you hadn't even thought of. So yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So when you take people through the process, I loved how you said just get started. How would you, something we said earlier when we were talking through how to bring this to people, say, where can you shine online? How can you really, the secrets to branding? I feel like there's so much out there. Like, where do you begin? Where, without getting overwhelmed, without getting stuck, if you didn't have thousands of dollars to spend on branding, like, what is the secret to just beginning? I love the idea of sending out a little questionnaire to friends and family and getting feedback. Once you have that, how do you work from there? Where do you see that people could really use that information and move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where people get stuck. They get really inspired. They'll have some initial ideas, and then there's a couple like really obvious roadblocks. So there's like the technical piece, not knowing literally how to lay it out and where to begin. I'm sorry, I would call that the strategic piece, like not knowing how to put that into a game plan and an action plan with steps and break it down into, okay, we do this first and then that and that. I think secondly, people have a budget restraint. They assume that branding has to be this really expensive process, and sometimes it is. So it's not expensive, but it definitely is an investment in your business. So if you're not in the position to make a large investment, then there's other solutions. So what I do is I literally do this discovery process with people to find out what do they have to work with. Have they thought through some of this stuff already, or are they starting from scratch? And then map it out. No matter where they're at, I can give them recommendations. I'll send them to a crowdsourcing website to get your logo done for $99 if that's where you're at. And then maybe it makes more sense for you to invest with somebody to help you put your strategy together for the first 90 days of launching your business. I don't know. But I will say that, and the other place I think where people get stuck is maybe they haven't they're not really creative, and so they don't think in those ways. So sometimes I take for granted, I can do both right and left brain. Some people can't, but I do prefer right brain. So sometimes the structure, the details is not my bag. I need somebody. So basically what I tell people is fill in the gaps. So you do as much as you can, and where you get stuck, really figure out where you're stuck and get somebody who can help you with that piece to move forward. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered that, but I think
I think like if I was to say, like if we were to give people a branding, let's say checklist,
yep.
I think that would be really helpful if you're starting out, or maybe that you're in a place where you need to rebrand. Say this is the inspired brand checklist.
Yeah.
Logo, or maybe even a fresh eyes. Would that be something that you would say right away people would need?
Yeah, and I think it can be as simple as a text-based logo. A lot of sites are very simple nowadays. We don't have the level of graphic design that was required, let's say 10 years ago when you were starting out your branding. So as you know, sites are all going mobile, so you don't need something super complex. Unless you're McDonald's and a multi-million-dollar brand, get started with something. I was C Miro Consulting when I first started working, and it was like, hey, I know I'll be Claudia Miro for the rest of my life, so I might as well. And I have no idea what I'm going to focus on. So consulting sort of covered all of that. And I started with whatever I could. So I tell people, pick a font you like, pick it, put your name. If you can go on Fiverr and get somebody to actually put it together in a Photoshop file for you, so you can actually use it for print, right? So you need a high resolution version, which is usually Photoshop or Illustrator.
That's great. I'm going to put this in the show notes. So
yeah, I'm going to actually, if you want, I don't know if you want to offer, but any of this, I'm happy to send in an email. If you want to follow up with people, I'm happy to.
They go to crystalclifton.com/show. They sign up. We can send them the show notes. I think a branding checklist. Let's go over a couple key points on things that you found, like Fiverr for a logo. And what do they need from Fiverr is a high def logo. And that way somebody's like, I don't even know where to begin. Where do I do this? Fiverr's great. And
there's a difference between like the strategic piece of a logo versus the design piece of a logo. So the more you can figure out in terms of, like, for example, what I tell people all the time, they ask me, how much is a logo? Well, I go, well, what are you starting with? What am I designing for you? If you want a custom illustration that incorporates the sun, moon, stars, universe, and somehow makes it simple, that's a much more creative process that will take some thinking through and some design for sure, iterations and versions. But if you're just getting started, if you're a coach and a consultant, it's not that important. So just start with something that looks polished and clean, and go on some, I'm not even ashamed to say, I don't think of Fiverr and all of them as my competition. I think they help clients who are not ready to take the bigger package on, because either it just doesn't make financial sense for their business, or it's just not a key priority for where they want to spend the dollars. So anyway, I tell people all the time, go and check those out, see what you can get on. And actually, aside from Fiverr, I'd recommend 99designs.com. I'd recommend, there's actually a site called Upwork that I send people to all the time to find specific talent. You can see people's portfolios on there. So if you do want to get something a little more complex, then you can absolutely go on those crowdsourcing sites and get some really amazing talent. But like I said, back to that point, get clear for yourself, even if it means sketching something out on a piece of paper and putting a Pinterest board together of styles of logos that you really like. I think that's key for any design or creative project, by the way, is just start a Pinterest board and just start Googling stuff and seeing what other like there's a visual component to what you like in a style, and there's also a strategic kind of a symbol and a conceptual idea of what you're trying to convey. So both of those things are important to give to a designer. That saves you not only a ton of time and a ton of money, but you get what you want a lot quicker.
Yeah, we did that. That was really important, right? And sometimes I will tell you, my beautiful, especially women and female entrepreneurs, sometimes we do analysis paralysis. We're like, I like this, but I like this, I like this. So sometimes I think part of the process is doing this Pinterest board and then saying, great, now choose one of the 10 different designs you have, or choose 3, and then let's prioritize. We'll do 3 versions of a logo and see what one fits. Because I do feel that when you do a Pinterest board, sometimes it feels like you're in a free-for-all shopping cart without really spending, and we just start adding things like this.
And that's actually interesting. Super creative, and you have a great sense of design and style. So what I found is with you, there was stuff all over the board because it was more of what you're drawn to and what potential you see. But there's some people who actually, they like 3 colors or they're really clear that they want it to look and feel this certain way. And so for some people, it's actually not as much wrangling them in. For some it is. So whenever I see somebody's Pinterest board, that gives me a sense of where they're at and where I need to kind of help guide them. So whether it's they're just all over the place, then I go, okay, let's rein it in. Or if it's maybe they're not being creative enough. Some people are really linear in the way they think. So I think that when you hire somebody, hire for where you're getting stuck. And so when I work with people, I try to give them something to work with that they can show me, and then I could get a sense of how to help them.
That's great.
Yeah.
The other thing I would love to know is once we have the logo and kind of that Pinterest board, some people don't have a ton of money for photography. It's a really important process, to bring your brand alive. But some people also actually don't even want the photos of them. So is there a website or places they can go that they can search for photography without spending a bunch of money to help them bring their, because I would say, and I would love to hear your input on this, I feel like we're in a very visual time for branding, right? So there's the logo itself, but like you said in the beginning, what's the feeling we're trying to convey? And in today's marketplace to brand, people want to see that as an image. They don't want to read 2 pages about how they're supposed to be feeling. They see somebody who's like happy, they're like, that's a happy brand. If somebody's sad, like that's a sad brand. Or they're helping them, whatever it is. Like where can people find the visual photography that doesn't have to cost thousands and thousands of dollars? I think that was
such a great question. Yeah, such a great question, because honestly, if a client comes to me, depending on the business, but most clients, if they come to me and they say, I have $1,000, and it's either graphic design or photography, I will send them to a photographer and get some quality stock photography first before they do anything. Why? Because especially if they're content marketers, which is anybody who's really using content like video or blogs or just ebooks or PDFs as how they're getting clients to find out about them. It's a visual medium, and you are your brand in that context, especially if you're a coach and a consultant, a yoga teacher. If you're part of your brand, a key part of your brand, you need some good photography, and mostly because your competitors have good photography. And so for you to stand out, you really need to look polished. So the ideal is to have a custom photo, photography that's proprietary, where you hire somebody and it's a professional, not your friend with your iPhone. And they come up with some really good high resolution photography. I mean, your website is a testament to that. I love your photography. It's perfect. Yeah. So get a good photographer.
Amazing.
And I have a list depending on the trick with photography is obviously it's geographically limited. So, I could send you a bunch of photographers from San Francisco, from Santa Ynez, Santa Barbara area, from Seattle. But then it's like, well, what do you do if you're in the middle of nowhere? And so the other option, and if you don't have a budget to get started, I do think that even getting some headshots, if you can only do headshots and a couple of portrait photos, that will go a long way. You can put that initially on your website. You can put it on your about page. I think those are key, and you can maybe get away with spending $150 to $250 to get something quality. And then there's some amazing stock photography sites that I have no problem sharing that I give to my clients all the time, because they might not be perfect, but they'll get you started and the quality is there. So one is called Unsplash, so unsplash.com.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. There's another one called Pixabay, so Pixa Bay, bay.com. And Super Famous, so superfamous.com. What's that?
Undersplash was one, right?
Unsplash, so UN splash. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay. And I'm happy to send that to you as well.
In the show notes. Unsplash.com, and you said Super Famous?
Superfamous.com, yeah.
Great URL.
And then I actually also go to Creative Market. So if you go to bit.ly, bit.ly/Creative Market TIB, I believe you get an extra discount. It's my affiliate link, just putting it out there, but you do get an extra like 15% on your first purchase. So Creative Market is a resource not only for photography, but digital resources, logo templates. So if you want to take a stab at, working with some of their pre-built or pre-designed templates, you can use that as well. And let's see, so photography, these are low to no cost. Most of the three that I mentioned first are free. You have to give credit to the photographer, ideally, but great for blogs. So if you want to just really fill your blog with quality looking posts, beautiful imagery, those are great resources to start with. And you can just search for different concepts or symbols or themes that you want to convey in your post. Like, for example, I was doing a project for a client. I wanted women on a beach, and you go and you search and you can find some really gorgeous photos. And then, so those are going to help you get started. Creative Market is low cost, but like we're talking $3 to $10 instead of, in the past, you had to pay hundreds of dollars for stock photography. So,
right.
Yeah.
So logo, visual, and the visual regarding, I like the idea of blogging. What would you say right now is your favorite, if you had to just choose one, the power of one, say the most important place for somebody to focus on personal branding is, or business branding?
Honestly, it's getting really, really clear about know thyself. I'm just going to say know thyself. I think people don't take into account the strategic piece of first getting clear about who they are, what their values are, what they're trying to create, what their passion and purpose is for being in business in the first place. Once you have those things in place, creating a visual representation is not only something you can do much easier, but you can show somebody, this is what I'm trying to create. This is what I stand for. This is what I value. A designer feeds off of that. So if you're hiring someone, they can take that and create something for you. But you're the only one who can tell somebody what your business is all about, what you stand for, who you serve. So I think getting clear about the strategic pieces that I mentioned, the discovery process that I talked about earlier, is the number one thing you can do, and that will make everything else easier and better. Your content will flow from that, especially the 9 Ps that I talked about at some point of an inspired brand, which I tell people all the time. It's passion, purpose, promise. So what do you promise as a brand? What is it that you stand for? What do you offer? Your position. So how do you stack up against the competition? Like, I'm not just a web designer, so why am I different? Those are things that go into the position. Personality, people, who you are, who your clients are, and who your community is. That's important. And who your team is, right? So those are all part of your brand. Platform. What's the other one? Presence and profits. So I threw the profits in for you, Crystal, because I actually think that in this world of transparency too, you have to, if you're in business, you're not a nonprofit. Even nonprofits have to make money. I think that's a huge misconception.
That's so true. I love people like, oh, nonprofits still make money. So just because you're non-income doesn't make you a nonprofit.
Yeah, no, we will get on that tangent. But
two different things.
I work with a lot of nonprofits, and I think most of what their issue is that they don't really talk about the fact that they run like a business and they need to think like a business. And so profits is part of, how do I serve my clients? And there's nothing wrong with making money in your business. So how do you do that in a way that's a value driven, business that's sustainable? I think all of that is part of your brand, I think, too.
I love it. Okay. Can we review these 9 Ps? I have passion, purpose, promise, position. Okay.
Personality.
Personality. I love it.
People, platform, presence, and profits.
People, platform,
presence, and profits.
Great.
I've been playing with these for a while. I could add a bunch more in there, but I think 9 is enough. And I think those really get those. And I have exercises for each of those. I'll probably send you a couple that you can include in the show notes.
This would be amazing for everybody on the show. Definitely what I really, really, really am excited is when we get such amazing stuff like this, because then when people want to know, okay, how do I really get inspired and bring my brand to life, if there's a process or a checklist, or really how can I align myself. So I'm going to put that we're going to give the checklist for branding will be in the show notes, and the 9 Ps. Yeah. I love it. And the 9 Ps.
Can I give a quick shout out? Do you mind?
Yeah. No, of course.
I'm sitting, so Bill Murray, my little homie over my shoulder.
I love him. I happen to be a real Bill Murray fan.
I don't know who isn't. I don't know who isn't. I mean, he's amazing. But yeah, so this is a really awesome, famous historical building downtown, beautiful downtown Austin. My really dear best friend in the world, Lindsay Fadner, she has a place called Swap Loft, Stay, Work, and Play. So it's a combination co-working / hostel space. She has 3 locations now. They're just blowing up. Anyway, this is their newest location. And this was a big advertising firm, I think, that had this building. And they have this iconic, famous Bill Murray portrait on the wall.
I love it. Now, I would love to know, has anybody ever been to Austin? Because that, to me, that's a city that I must go to.
Yeah.
Anybody watching this show, has anybody ever been to Austin or been to any of these amazing buildings? It looks amazing. So it's a hostel, so it's a work, stay, play.
Yeah. So you have a conference room, you have office space, you have everything, printers, everything you need, amazing Wi-Fi. You're literally steps from 6th Street, which is like their Bourbon Street here in Austin. So you can get your party on and then you can come back. All the conference centers, all the hotels are right here. So if you're in a business like me where you need to focus and get work done, but then you want to go out and, see the city and be connected. What's awesome is, and then upstairs, there's different housing accommodation options. So depending on what you want. So it's basically a digital nomad's dream. And I'm staying here and having an amazing time and getting work done and being productive. So it's pretty awesome. Just had to give them a shout out.
I love it because I'm giving a shout out from downtown LA. I love Level. This is my home away from home. So every time I'm in LA, when I can come and stay here, I absolutely adore what they're doing here.
See? And these are all parts of your brand, by our brand, by the way. So
that's what I was going to say is actually, I think when we go back to the idea of being authentic, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that right now businesses want to be authentic. And as an entrepreneur, you want to go places that are authentic, like where you are or where I am. I know the people here. I know what they stand for. I will willingly go to a place that I know is branded with the vision and the heart and the soul and spend my money there. And today's consumer does that. That's the shift of business. So branding is more than a logo. It's your soul of your business that allows you to shine. And so it's beyond just, I have a logo. It's like, we have, like you were saying, what's the discovery of the logo? Why are you even in business? Because people have a lot of options now. Well,
and you brought up a really great point that I thought earlier. I was talking to a client. It's not about, again, back to like what it used to be to advertise something, to package something. It was almost this, people don't trust brands, right? There was a time where like brands failed us. They did not own and live up to their brand promise, right? So we started becoming really skeptical of brands. And I think that's where that consumer trend towards like authenticity and alignment and values comes from, is like, wait, I want to know who's behind the businesses that I do business with. I want to know that I align with the values. I want to know that I can trust them. I want to know that they're going to deliver on what they promise. So when you talk about branding, it's really not about putting this like facade on and this very like professional. It's literally just getting clear about who you already are, what you already offer, who you are, and who you want to be, and then sharing that and doing it in a place that is clear to the consumer. And a lot of people, they do that in their business, but then they don't know how to visually communicate it or strategic, roll that out throughout their marketing. And that's really what branding is nowadays. I think it's
so true. I have to give a shout out too, because I told him I would. Happy birthday, Dad. I love you. My dad goes, thanks for calling me. I know you're far away. Like, I'll give you a shout out. It's my Facebook Live today. He doesn't even watch my show, but I'm sure my mom does. So Mom, tell Dad I said hello and happy birthday. I'll give him a little happy birthday dance.
That's so funny. It's Lindsay, my friend who owns this place. It's her birthday too. So happy birthday, Lindsay.
Look at birthday shout out. Anybody else, if it's their birthday, this is like the birthday show. Tag anybody who needs branding or needs a celebratory birthday. We should like sing them happy birthday. Oh my gosh, Claudia, thank you for breaking this down. I think this is power-packed episode. There's so much here. So really, to get this list, the checklist, and the 9 Ps with an exercise, I mean, that's invaluable. So as a business owner, an entrepreneur, you need to know what your brand stands for. You need these 9 Ps. Go to crystalclifton.com/show, sign up, get the notes. You will absolutely thank us later. Claudia is magical and patient as all get out. And just if you need somebody magical, she's the gal. And thank you, Claudia, for bringing this to people's awareness. Branding is key to stand out today. So
I have to give you a shout out to Crystal. You were a dream client. Literally, as from the moment you walked in my door, I knew that we were aligned in a lot of ways. And it was just beautiful to see it come together, whether it took a few rounds of a trial and error or not. The result is amazing, and I'm just so happy. And I wish you the most success in the world. And
thank you. Well, I love working with people to unlock their business superpower, and especially women in business. Man, we are just dynamite because of feminine power. Not in a like hear me roar, but in a authentic way that we're talking about. Yeah. This is the time where we need that in today's business, is how to authentically connect, and branding is one piece of it. And that's really about what I teach. So thank you for helping bring that alive. You guys, the show notes are there. We so appreciate you tuning in. Tag, share, get involved. The success of SASS is about you building a business as something to say. So please share this episode, get involved with the community. If you want more information on what you saw here, go and get the show notes, crystalclifton.com/show. And we will have a great rest of your week and stand out for something that you believe in. Bye, guys.
Bye from Austin.
Okay.